What's going on, everyone? Hope you guys had a good weekend. Hope you're able to beat the heat, staying in the AC, hitting the pool, maybe the beach, or drive around with your windows rolled down. I know the long weekend's coming up, which means everyone's going to be out on the grill, and anyone that is, make sure you shoot me a shout out or an invite. I'll be sure to bring some brew. I really want to take the time to thank everyone who has caught my previous episodes of the podcast. It really means a lot to me. I hope you gotten something out of it. Today's episode is called Don't Believe the Hype. And for anyone that is a hip hop aficionado, knows that's a song by the militant rap group Public Enemy. The hype I want to address today is this baseless, crazy notion of replacement theory. About as much foundation in anything as trickle down theory of economics, but that's a whole different discussion. People like Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump, and the white nationalists that exist in our society today seem to believe in this idiotic notion that the Democratic Party is trying to bring in immigrants so they can control, so they vote Democrat, so they can stay in power, which is just idiotic and is nonsense. It's led to a lot of racism, xenophobia, and even violence. As we've seen in a lot of these mass shootings, the most recent one was in Buffalo. And I just want to send out my sympathies and condolences to the victims and their families, and also to the incident that happened in California at the Taiwanese church. It's crazy that we live in a society today where you can't even go buy groceries or worship without fear of being shot. It's just dangerous times that we live in right now, and it's just ridiculous. Instead of addressing the serious issues that we overlook, like inflation or gun control or even mental illness, we have journalists who are talking about replacement theory on their show over 400 times. I mean, it's dangerous. Tucker Carlson should be kicked off the air. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Charles Manson was put in prison not for committing murder, but for inciting people and influencing them to commit murder. So why isn't the same for him or for Donald Trump? When you're inciting violence against minorities who have done nothing wrong, it's wrong. It's dangerous. It's irresponsible. Journalists are supposed to have integrity. I mean, you would never see Walter Cronkite or Barbara Walters doing stuff like that. So why is he allowed to get away with it? I mean, what type of society are we living in right now where we vilify people like Colin Kaepernick, who was taking a knee in protest against police brutality against black people? But we put a vigilante on a pedestal like Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, it's just irresponsible. These are grown people doing this stuff. I can understand if they were teenagers or in their 20s. But you have people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s even, inciting such division in our country. It's like they're trying to revert back to the days of like the 40s and 50s, where things were separate but equal. Instead of accepting the fact that we're a more diverse nation now, we have a lot of biracial children, and people live differently, they look differently, they worship differently. And you should just embrace it. Maybe you don't understand it, but it's not for you to judge. You're not God. I mean, I don't get it. And like, I don't understand the hypocrisy that exists now in our society either. I believe it was in Wisconsin during Christmas time where someone drove their car through a parade and killed about 5 or 6 people. And of course, Fox News was quick to pick up on it, quick to call him a villain, quick to talk about Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. But this recent incident in Buffalo, they're citing mental illness. The kid streamed what he was doing. He had the N word written on his gun. That's not mental illness. That's premeditated. That's thought out. That's planned. But I love how they sent mental illness when it helps their notions, their narrative, their people. And yes, I said their people. And before you think I'm racist, I categorize white people in two different categories. There are white people and people who happen to be white. White people are Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, DeSantis, Abbott, even Ted Cruz, and let's just face it, he's a sellout. People who happen to be white understand that there's inequalities and institutionalized racism. They embrace different cultures and they have an open mind. These people that we have in power today, a lot of them don't. They want things to be separate but equal. They want to control people, control women, control the narrative. People like Tucker Carlson are just freaking parasites that ride their coattails. And it's just dangerous what you're promoting, what you're preaching, what you're spewing. You're inciting these people to commit murder, to hurt innocent people. Why? Because they look different, they love different, they identify differently. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. What laws are they breaking? Who are they really hurting? I mean, this whole notion that, oh, these brown and black people are coming to take your jobs. No, the real truth is that these people who are in power, the Fortune 500, the freaking Jeff Bezos, are underpaying you, overworking you, outsourcing your jobs. And then they have these silly conspiracy theories and notions to make you look the other way where they get away with murder and take all your money. I mean, it's just silly. I mean, and I know it kills these white nationalists to see minorities get ahead. It kills them to see Native Americans owning casinos and hotels and restaurants. It kills them to see minorities on the Forbes Fortune 500 list like Jay Z, Michael Jordan, Kanye West, Rihanna. It kills them, it bugs them to no degree to see the fact that we had a black president who served not one but 2 terms in office. It burns them up the fact that we have a female vice president. Not only is she female, but she's black and Indian. But instead, they keep saying, oh, look at, they're trying to replace us, they're trying to take over. If you want to talk about replacement theory, why don't you talk about how European settlers came here and tried to replace Native Americans and Mexicans? Entire nations were wiped off the face of the earth pretty much. You came here, you killed the men, you raped the women, you gave them diseases, you put them on reservations, or you wiped out entire cultures. But we don't ever talk about that. Instead, we have this watered down, whitewashed version of a history of the world. We celebrate Columbus, and he was nothing but a murderer. And it's just ridiculous. And then you don't want to teach critical race theory, which I get, because you're afraid people will gain knowledge. They'll get together and they'll retaliate against the powers that be. So why don't we call it what it really is? Retaliation theory, because that's what you're in fear of retaliating. You're afraid that these marginalized minorities are going to group together and stand up against you, which is happening anyway. With these anti abortion laws, these voter rights restrictions, we need to band together and we need to vote these people out of office. It's just ridiculous. And we need to freaking tell Fox News to kick Tucker Carlson off the air. He shouldn't have a podcast. He shouldn't be allowed to write a newspaper article. He shouldn't be given a blog. He shouldn't even be allowed to stand on the corner on a soapbox to preach his propaganda because it's dangerous. And if it was anyone else, if it was Wolf Blitzer, if it was anyone on MSNBC, I mean, I would say the same thing about them too. You're supposed to have integrity. You're supposed to tell it like it is down the middle, condemning both left and right, blue and red, not just preach your propaganda, your ideologies, and come up with these crazy notions that are getting innocent people killed. And then cite mental illness when it helps you to downplay it? No, that was racism. That's hatred in the living embodiment. To drive out of your way just to kill people because they look different, because you're afraid that they're taking over? What kind of nonsense is that? And then at one point, we had a president during the whole Charlottesville incident who said there were good people on both sides. Really? Good people on both sides. You had a group of neo Nazi white nationalists carrying tiki torches, spewing that you will not replace us, condemning black people, gays, Hispanics, Asians, Jews. And it's like you had a group of citizens who were speaking out against their hatred. If you're racist or anti Semitic or transphobic or homophobic, you don't get props for that. You don't get a pat on the back. You don't get a high five or that a boy. No. You need to be put in your place. You need to be condemned. You need to be persecuted. That stuff has no place in our society anymore, and it never did. And we can't keep supporting people like this. I don't understand why people still support Donald Trump. It's dangerous. And it's clear as day. I mean, even Stevie Wonder can see that. And that dude hasn't seen stuff in years. It's it's dangerous. It's irresponsible. Words have power. And with great power, like I said before, comes great responsibility. And these grown men are showing that they're irresponsible and only care about themselves. They build their bases based on fear and inciting hatred, and it needs to stop. Replacement theory is a very, very dangerous thing to teach and to speak about. I mean, I just don't get it. How is anyone watching Fox News nowadays? And how is that network allowing this man to stay on the air preaching this hatred and propaganda? I mean, that's something that I will never understand. And if I ever see Tucker Carlson in person, I'm going to rip his bow tie off and shove it down his throat. There are 10 families that are going to have an empty chair at the dinner table around the holidays. A void that will never be filled because of one man's ideology and hatred. And I just can't wrap my head around it. How can people be so short sighted and just filled with such animosity because people are different than you? I mean, maybe someone can take the time to explain it to me because I just don't get it and I never will. We are all American citizens, despite how we worship, how we live, who we love. At the end of the day, we're all Americans. And we all need to come together and put aside our hatred and our division and stand up for what is right. Well, that's just my belief, so I'm just being honest about how I feel. I would love to hear your thoughts and your feelings on this. Well, long weekend's coming up. Time to remember our fallen heroes who fought for this country. Hope you guys have a good week and stay safe. Peace out.